Question 1. The control framework reveals that Al-Quds University College is facing pressure to meet its enrollment targets for the upcoming academic year. The admissions department is considering various strategies to attract more applicants. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the ethical and regulatory expectations for university admissions? Option A. Launching an aggressive marketing campaign that highlights potential financial aid opportunities and guarantees admission to all applicants who express interest, regardless of their academic background. Option B. Reducing the minimum entry requirements for all programs and fast-tracking the admission process to quickly fill available spots, prioritizing quantity over academic preparedness. Option C. Offering conditional admissions with significantly relaxed academic support services, assuming that students admitted under these conditions will self-correct their academic deficiencies. Option D. Implementing a proactive outreach program that clearly communicates admission criteria, program details, and realistic career prospects to prospective students, focusing on genuine academic interest and suitability. The correct answer is D. Implementing a proactive outreach program that clearly communicates admission criteria, program details, and realistic career prospects to prospective students, focusing on genuine academic interest and suitability. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's immediate financial needs with its long-term ethical and regulatory obligations to prospective students. Pressure to meet enrollment targets can lead to compromises that violate the principles of fair and transparent admissions. Careful judgment is required to ensure that recruitment practices are not misleading and that the university upholds its commitment to academic integrity. The correct approach involves prioritizing accurate and transparent communication with prospective students about admission requirements and the university's academic programs. This aligns with the Al-Quds University College's stated mission and any applicable regulations governing higher education admissions, which would typically emphasize honesty, fairness, and the best interests of the student. By focusing on genuine student interest and academic suitability, the university fosters a positive reputation and attracts students who are more likely to succeed, ultimately benefiting the institution in the long run. This approach adheres to ethical principles of integrity and responsible institutional conduct. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on meeting enrollment targets through aggressive, potentially misleading recruitment tactics fails to uphold ethical standards and could violate regulations. Such tactics might involve exaggerating program outcomes or downplaying admission difficulties, which misrepresents the university's offerings and sets unrealistic expectations for students. This erodes trust and can lead to student dissatisfaction and potential complaints. Another incorrect approach that involves lowering admission standards to fill seats disregards the academic integrity of the institution. This compromises the quality of education provided and devalues the degrees awarded. It also fails to serve the best interests of the students, who may not be adequately prepared for the academic rigor of the programs. This approach can lead to higher dropout rates and damage the university's academic standing. A third incorrect approach that involves prioritizing short-term financial gains over student welfare by admitting students who are clearly not qualified for the programs offered is ethically unsound. This demonstrates a lack of commitment to student success and can lead to a decline in academic standards. It also exposes the university to reputational damage and potential regulatory scrutiny. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the university's mission, values, and all relevant regulations. They should then assess the potential impact of different recruitment and admission strategies on prospective students, current students, and the institution's reputation. Prioritizing transparency, fairness, and the long-term well-being of students over short-term gains is crucial. This involves seeking advice from legal counsel or senior management when faced with ethical dilemmas, and ensuring that all practices are defensible from both a regulatory and an ethical standpoint. Question 2. Compliance review shows that a faculty member has requested preferential consideration for an applicant who is a relative, citing the applicant's potential. The admissions committee is tasked with deciding how to proceed. Which of the following approaches best upholds the integrity of the Al-Quds University College admissions process? Option A. Grant the applicant admission based on the faculty member's recommendation, assuming the faculty member's judgment of potential is sufficient. Option B. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on the published admission criteria and procedures, ensuring impartiality and transparency, and document the decision thoroughly. Option C. Inform the faculty member that their recommendation will be given significant weight, even if it means slightly bending the standard admission requirements for this specific case. Option D. Decline to review the applicant's file until the faculty member withdraws their request, to avoid any perception of undue influence. The correct answer is B. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on the published admission criteria and procedures, ensuring impartiality and transparency, and document the decision thoroughly. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an understanding of the ethical obligations and regulatory expectations governing academic admissions at Al-Quds University College. The admissions committee must balance the desire to admit qualified students with the imperative to uphold fairness, transparency, and adherence to established university policies. The challenge lies in navigating potential conflicts of interest and ensuring that decisions are based on merit and established criteria, not undue influence. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial review of all applications, strictly adhering to the Al-Quds University College's published admission criteria and procedures. This ensures that all candidates are evaluated on a level playing field, promoting fairness and integrity in the admissions process. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the regulatory framework of academic institutions, which mandates objective evaluation and prohibits preferential treatment based on personal connections. An incorrect approach would be to grant preferential treatment to an applicant based on their relationship with a faculty member. This violates the principle of equal opportunity and fairness, potentially undermining the academic standards of the university. It also creates an appearance of impropriety and could lead to accusations of bias, damaging the reputation of both the faculty member and the institution. Such an action would be a direct contravention of ethical codes of conduct for academic professionals and the implicit regulatory expectation of merit-based admissions. Another incorrect approach would be to disregard the applicant's qualifications entirely and admit them solely due to the faculty member's recommendation, without a proper review against the established criteria. This bypasses the established admission process and can lead to the admission of underqualified students, which is detrimental to the academic environment and the university's standing. It also fails to uphold the transparency expected in admissions. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's admission policies and ethical guidelines. When faced with a potential conflict of interest or a request that seems to deviate from standard procedure, a professional should 1. Consult the relevant university policies and ethical codes. 2. If necessary, seek guidance from a supervisor or the relevant administrative department, e.g., the admissions office. 3. Ensure that all decisions are documented and justifiable based on objective criteria. 4. Prioritize fairness, transparency, and the integrity of the academic process above personal relationships or external pressures. Question 3. Compliance review shows that Al-Quds University College is facing pressure to meet its enrollment targets for the upcoming academic year. A proposal has been made to consider applicants' potential to contribute financially to the college or their families' connections within the community as significant factors in the admissions process, even if their academic qualifications or entrance exam scores are slightly below the published thresholds. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the ethical and regulatory framework for university admissions at Al-Quds University College? Option A. Prioritize applicants who demonstrate a strong financial capacity or have influential connections, as this can benefit the college's resources and reputation. Option B. Strictly adhere to the published admission criteria, giving primary weight to academic merit and entrance exam performance, and ensuring all applicants are evaluated objectively against these standards. Option C. Implement a flexible interpretation of admission criteria, allowing for exceptions to be made for applicants who are close to meeting the requirements, especially if they express a strong desire to attend and can potentially bring in additional funding. Option D. Focus on admitting students who are most likely to graduate quickly and contribute to alumni-giving campaigns, regardless of their initial academic standing or entrance exam results. The correct answer is B. Strictly adhere to the published admission criteria, giving primary weight to academic merit and entrance exam performance, and ensuring all applicants are evaluated objectively against these standards. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's immediate financial needs with its long-term ethical obligations to its students and the integrity of its admissions process. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can lead to compromises that undermine fairness and academic standards. Careful judgment is required to ensure that decisions are not only financially expedient, but also ethically sound and compliant with University College's established policies and the spirit of fair academic evaluation. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of all applications, adhering strictly to the published admission criteria and the established weighting of academic merit, entrance exam performance, and any other officially sanctioned evaluation factors. This approach upholds the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants and maintains the academic integrity of the college. It aligns with the ethical duty to select students based on their potential to succeed academically and contribute to the college community, rather than on external pressures or arbitrary criteria. This is ethically justified by the commitment to meritocracy and fairness inherent in academic institutions. An incorrect approach that prioritizes applicants who have demonstrated financial capacity or connections, regardless of their academic qualifications or entrance exam scores, represents a significant ethical failure. This undermines the principle of merit-based admissions and creates an unfair advantage for some applicants over others, potentially admitting students who are not academically prepared for the rigor of university studies. This violates the ethical obligation to provide a fair and transparent admissions process. Another incorrect approach that involves lowering admission standards or creating special exceptions for applicants who are close to meeting the criteria solely to meet enrollment targets is also professionally unacceptable. This compromises academic quality and devalues the achievements of students who have met the established standards through genuine effort. It can lead to a decline in the overall academic reputation of the college and is ethically unsound as it deviates from the stated and implied promises of a rigorous academic environment. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to transparency, fairness, and adherence to established policies. Professionals should first understand the explicit admission criteria and the underlying ethical principles governing admissions. When faced with pressure to deviate, they should advocate for decisions that uphold these principles, even if it means challenging immediate financial pressures. If a decision point arises where policy interpretation is unclear, seeking guidance from senior administration or an ethics committee, and documenting all considerations and decisions is crucial. The ultimate goal is to ensure that admissions decisions are defensible on both ethical and policy grounds. Question 4. Upon reviewing the admission applications for the upcoming academic year, an administrator notices that a candidate with a strong recommendation from a prominent alumnus has borderline scores on the University College entrance exam. The alumnus has also indicated a willingness to make a significant donation to the college. The administrator is under pressure to meet enrollment targets. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for the University College entrance exam? Option A. Prioritize the candidate's admission due to the potential financial benefit to the college, as this could support future academic programs and infrastructure. Option B. Evaluate the candidate solely based on their exam performance and adherence to all other admission criteria, without considering the alumnus's recommendation or potential donation. Option C. Suggest a re-evaluation of the candidate's exam paper to identify any minor scoring discrepancies that could be adjusted to meet the admission threshold. Option D. Consider the alumnus's recommendation and the potential donation as mitigating factors to justify admitting the candidate, even if their exam scores are slightly below the standard cutoff. The correct answer is B. Evaluate the candidate solely based on their exam performance and adherence to all other admission criteria, without considering the alumnus's recommendation or potential donation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and fair admission processes. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can tempt individuals to overlook or bend established procedures, potentially compromising the college's reputation and the fairness of the entrance exam. Careful judgment is required to balance institutional goals with ethical responsibilities. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the established University College entrance exam regulations and guidelines. This means ensuring that all candidates, regardless of their background or perceived potential benefit to the college, are evaluated solely on their performance in the exam and adherence to admission criteria. This upholds the principle of fairness and equal opportunity, which are fundamental to academic institutions. Specifically, the regulations for the University College entrance exam mandate a transparent and merit-based selection process, prohibiting any form of preferential treatment or manipulation of results. Upholding these regulations is not just a procedural requirement, but an ethical imperative to maintain the credibility of the college and the value of its degrees. An incorrect approach would be to consider the influence of a prominent alumnus's recommendation as a factor in the admission decision, even if the candidate's exam scores are borderline. This violates the principle of meritocracy and fairness enshrined in the University College entrance exam regulations. Such a deviation introduces bias and undermines the integrity of the selection process, potentially leading to the admission of less qualified students and the rejection of more deserving ones. Another incorrect approach would be to suggest a review of the candidate's exam paper, with the intention of finding minor errors that could justify a slightly adjusted score to meet the admission threshold. This constitutes an attempt to manipulate the results and is a direct contravention of the University College entrance exam guidelines, which require objective scoring and prohibit any post-exam alteration of scores without due process and justification based on demonstrable errors in the original marking. A third incorrect approach would be to prioritize the potential financial contribution of the alumnus's family over the candidate's academic merit. This prioritizes financial gain over academic integrity and fairness, which are core values of any educational institution. The University College entrance exam regulations are designed to ensure that admissions are based on academic potential and performance, not on the financial status or connections of the applicant or their family. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding and unwavering commitment to the University College entrance exam regulations and ethical principles. When faced with pressure or conflicting interests, a professional must first identify the relevant rules and ethical obligations. They should then evaluate the potential consequences of different courses of action, prioritizing adherence to regulations and ethical standards. If there is ambiguity or a perceived conflict, seeking guidance from a supervisor or the relevant academic integrity committee is crucial. The ultimate goal is to ensure that decisions are fair, transparent, and in line with the established framework of the University College entrance exam. Question 5. Compliance review shows that a prospective student for the University College entrance exam has submitted an incomplete application, lacking a required academic transcript from their previous institution. The student, however, has presented a compelling personal statement and has strong recommendations, and they are pleading for a chance to be admitted, promising to submit the transcript immediately after the exam. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee, strictly adhering to the University College entrance exam's regulatory framework? Option A. Accept the student's personal statement and recommendations as sufficient to bypass the transcript requirement for the entrance exam. Option B. Grant provisional admission, allowing the student to submit the missing transcript within a specified short period after the exam. Option C. Advise the student to reapply in the next admission cycle once they have gathered all necessary documentation. Option D. Reject the application outright due to the incomplete documentation, as per the established University College entrance exam admission requirements. The correct answer is D. Reject the application outright due to the incomplete documentation, as per the established University College entrance exam admission requirements. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The university entrance exam is a critical gatekeeper, and any deviation from its established procedures undermines its validity and the trust placed in the institution. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the university's responsibility to uphold its standards with the need to address individual student circumstances, without compromising the integrity of the examination process. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the Al-Cut University College entrance exam regulations regarding eligibility and admission criteria. This means verifying all submitted documentation against the established requirements and ensuring that any candidate meets the prerequisites for admission. This approach is ethically and regulatorily sound because it upholds the principle of fairness to all applicants by ensuring a level playing field. It directly aligns with the Al-Cut University College entrance exam stated guidelines, which are designed to ensure that only qualified candidates are admitted, thereby maintaining the academic rigor and reputation of the college. An incorrect approach would be to bypass the established documentation verification process based on a personal appeal or a promise of future compliance. This fails to uphold the regulatory framework of the Al-Cut University College entrance exam, which mandates specific documentation for admission. Ethically, this creates an unfair advantage for the student in question over other applicants who have diligently followed the required procedures. It also sets a dangerous precedent, potentially encouraging future breaches of protocol. Another incorrect approach would be to grant provisional admission without the necessary documentation, contingent on the student providing it later. Seemingly accommodating, this still violates the Al-Cut University College entrance exam's strict requirements for complete application submission prior to consideration. It introduces uncertainty and risk, as the student may still fail to provide the required documents, leading to a complicated and potentially unfair rescission of admission. This undermines the structured and transparent admission process mandated by the university. A further incorrect approach would be to seek an exception to the rules based on the student's perceived potential or the influence of their family. This is ethically problematic as it introduces bias and favoritism into the admission process, directly contravening the principles of meritocracy and equal opportunity that underpin university admissions. It also disregards the specific regulatory framework of the Al-Cut University College entrance exam, which is designed to be applied uniformly to all prospective students. A professional decision-making process in such situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the Al-Cut University College entrance exam's regulations and guidelines. The focus should be on objective adherence to these rules. When faced with a situation that appears to warrant an exception, the professional should first consider if any provision within the existing regulations allows for such flexibility. If not, the decision must be to uphold the established procedures. Any proposed deviation should be formally documented and, if significant, may require escalation to a higher authority within the college for review, ensuring that any decision made is transparent, justifiable, and in full compliance with the university's governing framework. Question 6. The assessment process reveals a series of anonymous feedback submissions from faculty members expressing concerns about potential inconsistencies in the difficulty levels of certain sections within the Al-Cut University College entrance examination papers, suggesting a possible lack of standardization across different question sets. Option A. Initiate an immediate, thorough review of the examination papers by an independent committee to assess the validity of the faculty's concerns regarding standardization and potential inconsistencies, and to ensure the fairness and integrity of the assessment. Option B. Publicly acknowledge the anonymous feedback and announce that the university is investigating potential issues with the examination papers, without specifying the nature of the concerns. Option C. Dismiss the anonymous feedback as unsubstantiated and proceed with the scheduled administration of the entrance examination without further investigation. Option D. Immediately halt the administration of the entrance examination and request a complete overhaul of all assessment materials based on the anonymous feedback. Correct answer is A. Initiate an immediate, thorough review of the examination papers by an independent committee to assess the validity of the faculty's concerns regarding standardization and potential inconsistencies, and to ensure the fairness and integrity of the assessment. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's need for accurate admissions data with the ethical obligation to ensure fairness and prevent undue influence on the assessment process. The integrity of the entrance exam is paramount, and any perception of bias or manipulation can undermine the credibility of Al-Cut University College. Careful judgment is required to uphold these principles. The correct approach involves a thorough, independent review of the assessment materials and procedures, focusing on identifying any potential biases or irregularities that could disadvantage certain candidates. This aligns with the University College's commitment to merit-based admissions and the overarching ethical duty to conduct fair and transparent evaluations. Adhering to established assessment guidelines and ensuring the security and impartiality of the examination process are fundamental to maintaining academic standards and public trust. An incorrect approach that involves immediately discarding the concerns without investigation fails to uphold the university's responsibility to ensure a fair assessment. This demonstrates a disregard for potential systemic issues that could affect the validity of the exam results and the fairness of the admissions process. Another incorrect approach, which is to publicly announce the concerns before a proper investigation, risks creating unnecessary panic and distrust among prospective students and their families. It also prematurely casts doubt on the integrity of the exam without concrete evidence, potentially harming the reputation of the university. A further incorrect approach, which is to dismiss the concerns as minor and proceed with the exam as scheduled without any review, ignores the potential for significant impact on the fairness of admissions. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to proactively address issues that could compromise the integrity of the entire selection process. Professionals in this situation should employ a structured decision-making framework. This involves 1. Acknowledging and documenting all concerns raised. 2. Initiating an immediate, impartial investigation into the validity of the concerns, adhering to university policies and ethical guidelines for assessment. 3. Consulting with relevant stakeholders, such as the admissions committee and academic integrity officers, to determine the appropriate course of action based on the investigation's findings. 4. Implementing corrective measures if irregularities are found, ensuring transparency and fairness in the admissions process. 5. Communicating findings and actions appropriately to maintain trust and uphold the university's reputation. Question 7. Examination of the data shows a prospective student for the University College entrance exam has indicated a prior academic achievement that appears to be inconsistent with their submitted documentation. The student, when questioned informally, expresses a strong desire to be admitted and suggests that slight adjustments to their previous academic records could be made to better align with the college's stated prerequisites. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions officer? Option A. Politely but firmly inform the student that all submitted information must be accurate and that any attempt to falsify records will lead to immediate disqualification from the entrance exam and potential future applications, while offering to review their current, accurate documentation. Option B. Advise the student to withdraw their application and reapply once they have obtained accurate and verifiable academic records, without offering further assistance or explanation. Option C. Forward the student's request to the Academic Integrity Committee without further direct engagement with the student, assuming they will handle the investigation. Option D. Agree to the student's suggestion and discreetly facilitate the slight adjustments to their academic records to ensure their admission, as the college needs to meet its enrollment targets. The correct answer is A. Politely but firmly inform the student that all submitted information must be accurate and that any attempt to falsify records will lead to immediate disqualification from the entrance exam and potential future applications, while offering to review their current, accurate documentation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the ethical obligation to uphold academic integrity. The university entrance exam, as a gatekeeper to higher education, demands a rigorous and fair assessment process. Misrepresenting qualifications or providing false information undermines this process and creates an unfair advantage, potentially impacting the admission of other deserving candidates. Careful judgment is required to navigate the student's request while adhering to the University College's established regulations and ethical standards. The correct approach involves a direct and transparent communication with the student regarding the university's policies on academic honesty and the consequences of providing false information. This approach prioritizes adherence to the University College's regulatory framework, which implicitly or explicitly mandates truthfulness in all application materials. It also aligns with ethical principles of fairness and integrity in academic admissions. By clearly explaining the university's stance and the potential repercussions, The admissions officer upholds the integrity of the examination process and educates the student on responsible academic conduct. An incorrect approach that involves fabricating or altering academic records to meet the perceived requirements would be a severe ethical and regulatory violation. This action directly contravenes the principles of honesty and integrity expected in academic admissions and would likely be a breach of the University College's internal regulations concerning application fraud. Such a misrepresentation not only deceives the institution, but also disadvantages other applicants who have submitted truthful information. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the student's request and proceeding with the application without addressing the discrepancy, fails to uphold the professional responsibility of the admissions officer. While it avoids direct complicity in fraud, it neglects the duty to ensure the accuracy of application data and to guide students towards ethical conduct. This passive stance can inadvertently allow fraudulent applications to proceed, compromising the fairness of the admissions process. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the University College's specific admission policies and ethical guidelines. When faced with a potential misrepresentation, the professional should first seek clarification from the student. If the discrepancy persists or is confirmed as intentional, the next step is to consult the relevant university regulations regarding academic integrity and application fraud. The decision should then be made based on these regulations, prioritizing transparency, fairness, and the upholding of academic standards. This often involves documenting the interaction and escalating the matter to the appropriate university authority if necessary. Question 8. Assessment of the ethical considerations and stakeholder impact when University College is presented with a significant financial investment opportunity from a private entity with a questionable past record in corporate social responsibility, and the proposed investment is contingent on the college altering its curriculum to include specific industry-aligned vocational modules developed by the investing entity. Option A. Conduct comprehensive due diligence on the investing entity's ethical track record and the proposed vocational module's academic integrity, ensuring alignment with the college's mission and educational standards, and engage in transparent communication with faculty and students regarding the potential partnership and its implications. Option B. Negotiate the investment solely based on the financial terms, focusing on maximizing the immediate return for the college, and defer any discussions about curriculum or ethical considerations until after the funding is secured. Option C. Proceed with the investment and curriculum changes without extensive investigation into the investing entity's background or the academic merit of the proposed modules, assuming the financial benefits will outweigh any potential drawbacks. Option D. Accept the investment immediately to address the college's pressing financial needs, prioritizing the immediate financial relief over any potential concerns regarding the investing entity's past or the curriculum changes. The correct answer is A. Conduct comprehensive due diligence on the investing entity's ethical track record and the proposed vocational module's academic integrity, ensuring alignment with the college's mission and educational standards, and engage in transparent communication with faculty and students regarding the potential partnership and its implications. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term integrity of its academic programs and reputation. The decision-maker must balance the pressure to secure funding with the ethical obligation to ensure that any partnership aligns with the college's mission and values and does not compromise educational quality or student welfare. Careful judgment is required to assess the true impact of the proposed partnership beyond the financial figures. The correct approach involves a thorough due diligence process that prioritizes the university's core mission and stakeholder interests. This includes scrutinizing the potential partner's reputation, ethical practices, and the alignment of their objectives with University College's educational goals. It also necessitates transparency with existing stakeholders, such as faculty and students, regarding the proposed changes and their potential implication. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with principles of good governance and responsible institutional management, ensuring that decisions are made in the best interest of the academic community and its future. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the financial benefits without considering the qualitative aspects of the partnership would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for the potential negative impacts on academic standards, student experience, and the college's long-term reputation, which are paramount in an educational institution. Another incorrect approach that involves withholding critical information from faculty and students about the partnership's terms and potential consequences represents a breach of transparency and trust, undermining stakeholder confidence, and potentially leading to significant resistance and damage to institutional morale. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes the immediate financial gain over the long-term sustainability and ethical standing of the college demonstrates a short-sighted and irresponsible decision-making process, which can have severe repercussions on the institution's credibility and its ability to fulfill its educational mandate. Professionals in such situations should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the problem and identifying all relevant stakeholders. Next, they should gather comprehensive information, including financial, operational, and reputational data, and assess potential risks and benefits from multiple perspectives. This should be followed by evaluating alternative courses of action against established ethical principles and institutional values, and consulting with relevant internal and external experts. Finally, the chosen course of action should be implemented transparently, with mechanisms for ongoing monitoring and evaluation. Question 9. Which approach would be most appropriate for the administration of Al-Qaeda University College when considering potential applicants who have expressed willingness to make significant financial contributions to the university, while also needing to adhere to the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, MOHESR, admission regulations? Option A. Accept financial contributions from prospective students as a factor in the admission decision, framing it as a donation to enhance university facilities. Option B. Prioritize adherence to the official admission criteria and procedures set by the MOHESR, evaluating all applicants solely on academic merit and fulfillment of entry requirements, irrespective of any financial contributions. Option C. Establish a separate admission pathway for applicants willing to make substantial financial contributions, offering them preferential consideration. Option D. Delay admission decisions for applicants who have offered financial support until the university's immediate financial needs are fully assessed and potentially met by these contributions. The correct answer is B. Prioritize adherence to the official admission criteria and procedures set by the MOHESR, evaluating all applicants solely on academic merit and fulfillment of entry requirements, irrespective of any financial contributions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term ethical obligations to maintain academic integrity and fair admission processes. The university administration, acting as stakeholders, must balance these competing interests. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any decision made aligns with the established regulatory framework for university admissions in Iraq, as governed by the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, MOHESR, and relevant university bylaws. The correct approach involves prioritizing adherence to the official admission criteria and procedures set by the MOHESR. This means ensuring that all applicants, regardless of their background or any potential for financial contribution, are evaluated solely on their academic merit and fulfillment of the stated entry requirements. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant because it upholds the principles of fairness, transparency, and equal opportunity, which are fundamental to educational institutions. It directly aligns with the MOHESR mandate to ensure quality and equity in higher education admissions across Iraq. An incorrect approach would be to consider direct financial contributions from prospective students or their families as a factor in the admission decision, even if presented as a donation to the university. This would violate the principle of merit-based admissions, undermining the academic standards and reputation of Al-Qaeda University College. Such a practice could be construed as a form of bribery or undue influence, which is strictly prohibited by Iraqi educational regulations and ethical codes governing public institutions. It creates an unfair advantage for wealthier applicants and disadvantages those with strong academic potential but fewer financial resources. Another incorrect approach would be to create a separate, less rigorous admission track for students who offer financial support. This would also contravene the established admission regulations, which typically outline a single, standardized process for all applicants. It would lead to a two-tiered system that compromises the integrity of the degrees awarded and could attract scrutiny from regulatory bodies. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to prioritize the immediate financial needs of the university over the established admission policies, even if framed as a way to improve university resources. While financial sustainability is important, it cannot be achieved through means that compromise the core mission and ethical foundation of an educational institution. This would be a failure to uphold professional responsibility and could lead to severe reputational damage and potential sanctions from the MOHESR. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the applicable regulations from the MOHESR and the university's own bylaws. Professionals must first identify the core ethical principles at play, such as fairness, integrity, and transparency. They should then evaluate potential courses of action against these principles and the regulatory framework. Seeking guidance from legal counsel or ethics committees within the university or the MOHESR is also a crucial step when faced with complex ethical dilemmas that could have significant legal and reputational consequences. Question 10. Implementation of a new admissions policy at University College is being considered to address financial pressures. The proposed policy suggests creating a special admission pathway for applicants who can demonstrate a commitment to significant financial sponsorship of university projects, even if their academic qualifications are slightly below the standard entry requirements. This pathway would aim to secure necessary funding while still admitting students who are deemed capable of benefiting from the university's programs. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional ethical standards and the likely regulatory framework for university admissions in Iraq? Option A. Develop a tiered admission system where sponsored applicants are admitted into a separate, less academically demanding program, without explicitly disclosing this distinction to the general applicant pool. Option B. Implement the proposed special admission pathway for sponsored applicants, as the financial benefits to the university are crucial for its continued operation and development. Option C. Focus on meeting enrollment targets by admitting a higher number of students, including those with slightly lower academic qualifications, to boost tuition revenue, regardless of sponsorship. Option D. Strictly adhere to the established academic entry requirements for all applicants, while simultaneously exploring alternative, transparent fundraising strategies that do not compromise the integrity of the admissions process. The correct answer is D. Strictly adhere to the established academic entry requirements for all applicants, while simultaneously exploring alternative, transparent fundraising strategies that do not compromise the integrity of the admissions process. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term ethical and regulatory obligations concerning academic integrity and fair admission processes. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can tempt decision-makers to overlook established procedures, potentially compromising the credibility of the University College. Careful judgment is required to balance institutional goals with adherence to the principles of fairness and transparency. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the existing admission policies and a commitment to upholding them rigorously. This means ensuring that all applicants, regardless of their background or perceived potential benefit to the university, are evaluated based on the same objective criteria. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principles of fairness and equity, and implicitly with any regulatory frameworks governing university admissions that would mandate non-discriminatory and merit-based selection. Upholding these standards protects the reputation of University College and ensures that admitted students are genuinely qualified, contributing to a stronger academic environment. An approach that prioritizes securing donations over academic merit for admission is ethically flawed because it introduces bias and undermines the principle of equal opportunity. This could violate implicit or explicit regulations that require admissions to be based on academic qualifications and suitability for study, not financial contributions. Furthermore, it erodes trust in the university's admissions process, potentially leading to a perception of corruption or favoritism. An approach that focuses solely on meeting enrollment numbers without regard for the quality or qualifications of admitted students is also problematic. While enrollment targets are important for institutional stability, Achieving them through the admission of underqualified candidates can dilute academic standards and negatively impact the learning experience for all students. This approach may also contravene regulations that stipulate minimum academic entry requirements or standards for program quality, an approach that involves creating a separate, less rigorous admission track for students who can secure significant funding without transparently communicating this distinction and its implications, is deceptive. This lack of transparency is an ethical failure and could lead to regulatory scrutiny if it is found to circumvent established admission criteria or mislead applicants and stakeholders about the true nature of the admission process. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Identifying the core ethical principles at play: fairness, integrity, transparency. 2. Consulting the relevant university policies and any applicable regulatory guidelines for admissions. 3. Evaluating proposed actions against these principles and guidelines. 4. Seeking advice from relevant university committees or legal counsel if there is ambiguity. 5. Prioritizing long-term institutional integrity and reputation over short-term gains. Question 11. Compliance review shows a prospective student has approached a university admissions officer inquiring about effective strategies to prepare for the Al-Cut University College entrance exam, specifically asking for access to past exam papers that have not been officially released and hinting at a desire for insider tips to ensure a high score. Option A. Advise the student to seek external tutoring services that may offer access to such materials, suggesting that the university cannot officially endorse or provide them. Option B. Offer to share some of the unreleased past exam papers with the student, explaining that this is a special exception to help promising candidates demonstrate their potential. Option C. Provide the student with a list of recommended textbooks and general study advice without directly addressing their request for unreleased past papers or insider tips, hoping they will focus on legitimate preparation. Option D. Politely inform the student about the university's official study materials and preparation resources, clearly stating that access to unreleased past papers or any form of insider information is strictly prohibited and constitutes academic misconduct, outlining the potential consequences as per Al-Cut University College regulations. The correct answer is D. Politely inform the student about the university's official study materials and preparation resources, clearly stating that access to unreleased past papers or any form of insider information is strictly prohibited and constitutes academic misconduct, outlining the potential consequences as per Al-Cut University College regulations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's perceived need for academic assistance and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well on entrance exams can lead students to seek shortcuts, making it crucial for university staff to uphold ethical standards and regulatory compliance. Careful judgment is required to balance support for students with the need to maintain the validity and fairness of the examination process. The correct approach involves a direct and transparent communication with the student regarding the university's policies on academic misconduct and the consequences of such actions. This aligns with the Al-Cut University College's regulatory framework, which emphasizes honesty and integrity in all academic pursuits. By clearly explaining the rules and the potential repercussions, the university staff acts as a responsible gatekeeper, upholding the integrity of the entrance examination. This proactive educational stance is ethically sound, as it aims to prevent future misconduct and ensures all candidates are aware of the expected standards. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the student's request or to provide vague assurances without addressing the core issue of academic integrity. This failure to confront the potential misconduct directly violates the spirit of the Al-Cut University College's regulations, which implicitly require vigilance against cheating. Another incorrect approach would be to report the student without first attempting to educate them about the rules. While reporting is a necessary step if misconduct is confirmed, an initial attempt at clarification and education is often a more constructive and ethically defensible first step, promoting understanding rather than immediate punitive action, unless the student's intent is clearly malicious and already manifested in action. Providing the student with unauthorized assistance or materials would be a severe breach of ethical conduct and university regulations, directly undermining the fairness of the examination. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve, first, understanding the university's specific policies on academic integrity and examination conduct. Second, assessing the student's request for potential violations. Third, communicating clearly and respectfully with the student about the rules and consequences. And fourth, taking appropriate action based on the student's response and the university's established procedures, which may include further investigation or disciplinary measures if necessary. Question 12. During the evaluation of potential questions for the University College entrance examination, a committee member proposes a set of questions that have been highly recommended by a prominent alumnus, who is also a senior government official. The alumnus claims these questions are crucial for identifying candidates with a specific type of critical thinking that is highly valued in current professional fields. However, the proposed questions deviate significantly from the typical style and content of previous entrance exams and have not undergone the standard review process by the academic departments. What is the most appropriate course of action for the examination committee? Option A. Accept the proposed questions as they are, given the influential position of the alumnus and the perceived value of the critical thinking skills they aim to assess, to foster goodwill and demonstrate responsiveness to external stakeholders. Option B. Forward the proposed questions directly to the academic departments for their opinion without any initial committee review, to expedite the process and leverage departmental expertise. Option C. Formally review the proposed questions against the University College's examination regulations and the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research guidelines, assessing their relevance, fairness, and alignment with the curriculum, regardless of the source of the recommendation. Option D. Immediately reject the proposed questions because they deviate from the established format and have not followed the standard review process to maintain the integrity and predictability of the examination. The correct answer is C. Formally review the proposed questions against the University College's examination regulations and the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research guidelines, assessing their relevance, fairness, and alignment with the curriculum, regardless of the source of the recommendation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the University Entrance Exam Committee must balance the need to maintain academic integrity and fairness with the potential for external influence or perceived bias. The committee members are stakeholders with a vested interest in the exam's credibility and the university's reputation. Their decision-making process must be guided by the established regulations and ethical principles governing university admissions and examinations, ensuring that the process is transparent, equitable, and free from undue pressure. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the University College's established examination regulations and the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research guidelines for university entrance exams. This means the committee must objectively assess all proposed questions against these frameworks, prioritizing those that accurately measure the required knowledge and skills for the chosen fields of study, while ensuring no question unfairly advantages or disadvantages any group of applicants. The regulatory justification lies in upholding the principles of meritocracy and equal opportunity, as mandated by national educational policies. Ethically, this approach demonstrates integrity and a commitment to fair assessment. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize questions suggested by influential individuals or external bodies without rigorous vetting against the established criteria. This could lead to questions that are either too specialized, irrelevant to the core curriculum, or potentially biased, thereby compromising the fairness of the examination. Such an action would violate the regulatory framework by failing to adhere to objective assessment standards and could lead to legal challenges or reputational damage for the university. Another incorrect approach would be to accept questions based solely on their perceived difficulty or novelty, without considering their alignment with the learning objectives and the specific knowledge base expected of incoming students. This could result in an exam that is not a true measure of preparedness for university-level study, undermining the purpose of the entrance examination. This failure to align assessment with educational goals is a significant regulatory and pedagogical misstep. A third incorrect approach would be to allow personal biases or preferences of committee members to influence question selection, even if those questions are technically sound. This undermines the principle of impartiality and could lead to a perception of unfairness among applicants. Ethically, this constitutes a breach of trust and professional conduct. The professional decision-making process for similar situations requires a systematic and objective evaluation of all proposed examination content. Professionals should first consult and thoroughly understand the relevant regulatory frameworks and institutional guidelines. They should then establish clear, objective criteria for question selection that are directly linked to the learning outcomes and competencies required for the program. All proposed questions should be evaluated against these criteria by the committee, with a mechanism for documenting the rationale for acceptance or rejection. Transparency in the process, where appropriate, and a commitment to impartiality are paramount. Question 13. Compliance review shows that an applicant for the Al-Qaeda University College's engineering program has submitted a certificate from a vocational training institute claiming it is equivalent to a prerequisite subject, but the certificate lacks detailed course syllabi, and the institute is not listed on the college's approved list of equivalency providers. The admissions officer is under pressure from a senior faculty member to expedite the admission of this applicant, who is a relative of a significant donor. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions officer to ensure compliance with Al-Qaeda University College's entrance examination regulations? Option A. Request official transcripts and detailed syllabi from the Vocational Training Institute and cross-reference them with the Al-Qaeda University College's curriculum for the prerequisite subject, while also verifying if the institute can be considered for equivalency evaluation according to college policy. Option B. Forward the application to the Dean of Admissions with a recommendation for provisional acceptance, contingent on the applicant passing a remedial course offered by the college. Option C. Reject the application immediately due to the lack of clear equivalency and the institute not being on the approved list without further investigation. Option D. Accept the vocational training certificate at face value, given the applicant's stated intention to excel in engineering and the potential benefit to the college from the donor's relationship. The correct answer is A. Request official transcripts and detailed syllabi from the Vocational Training Institute and cross-reference them with the Al-Qaeda University College's curriculum for the prerequisite subject, while also verifying if the institute can be considered for equivalency evaluation according to college policy. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to meet entrance requirements, coupled with the potential for misinterpreting or misapplying university policies, necessitates careful judgment. The core of the challenge lies in upholding the Al-Qaeda University College's established entrance examination regulations, while addressing the student's specific circumstances. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of the student's application against the Al-Qaeda University College's stated entrance examination policies. This means verifying all submitted documentation, cross-referencing it with the official requirements for the specific program, and ensuring that any exemptions or special considerations are applied strictly in accordance with the college's published guidelines. This approach is ethically sound and professionally responsible, because it prioritizes fairness, transparency, and adherence to the established regulatory framework of Al-Qaeda University College. It ensures that all applicants are evaluated on a consistent and equitable basis, thereby maintaining the integrity of the admissions process and the academic standards of the institution. An incorrect approach would be to grant an exemption based solely on the student's stated intention to pursue further studies, without verifying the authenticity or validity of the supporting documentation against the college's regulations. This fails to uphold the principle of due diligence and could lead to the admission of unqualified candidates, undermining the academic rigor of the college. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the student's request outright without a proper review of their documentation and a clear explanation of the relevant Al-Qaeda University College entrance examination policies. This demonstrates a lack of professionalism and a failure to engage with the applicant in a constructive and informative manner. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a systematic review of the facts, a clear understanding of the relevant Al-Qaeda University College regulations, and an objective assessment of the applicant's qualifications against those regulations. If there is ambiguity in the regulations, seeking clarification from the appropriate university authority is crucial. The decision should be communicated clearly to the applicant, outlining the basis for the decision and any available recourse, if applicable, in accordance with KenningtonCollege's procedures. Question 14. Performance analysis shows that KenningtonCollege is facing a significant budget shortfall for its upcoming expansion project. A large, privately held company with a history of controversial environmental practices has offered a substantial donation to fund a new research facility, but the offer comes with an implicit expectation that the college will not publicly criticize the company's industry. How should the college administration proceed to ensure compliance with ethical standards and the college's regulatory framework? Option A. Accept the donation and proceed with the expansion, while discreetly advising faculty to avoid any public commentary that might negatively impact the donor. Option B. Accept the donation after conducting a thorough review of the company's environmental record and the implications of the implicit condition, seeking formal approval from the college's Board of Trustees and ensuring full transparency in the acceptance process. Option C. Reject the donation outright due to the company's environmental record and the problematic implicit condition, even if it means delaying or scaling back the expansion project. Option D. Immediately accept the donation to secure the necessary funds for the expansion, prioritizing the project's timely completion over potential reputational concerns. The correct answer is B. Accept the donation after conducting a thorough review of the company's environmental record and the implications of the implicit condition, seeking formal approval from the college's Board of Trustees, and ensuring full transparency in the acceptance process. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term integrity of its academic programs and reputation. The pressure to secure funding quickly can lead to decisions that compromise ethical standards and regulatory compliance. Careful judgment is required to balance these competing interests. The correct approach involves prioritizing transparency and adherence to the KenningtonCollege's established procurement regulations and ethical guidelines. This means conducting a thorough and impartial evaluation of all potential donors, ensuring that any contributions align with the college's mission and do not create undue influence or conflicts of interest. Specifically, it requires a clear process for assessing donor suitability, disclosing potential conflicts, and obtaining necessary approvals from relevant college committees or governing bodies, as stipulated by the college's internal policies and any overarching educational regulatory frameworks applicable in Iraq. This upholds the principle of academic integrity and responsible financial management. An incorrect approach would be to accept the substantial donation from the company with a questionable environmental record without due diligence. This fails to adhere to the college's ethical obligations to maintain a reputation for responsible corporate citizenship, and could expose the institution to reputational damage and potential regulatory scrutiny if the company's practices are later exposed or investigated. Another incorrect approach is to bypass the standard procurement and acceptance procedures for donations to expedite the process. This violates internal college policies and potentially external regulations governing the acceptance of significant financial contributions, undermining the principles of good governance and accountability. It also creates a precedent for circumventing established rules, which can lead to future compliance issues. A third incorrect approach is to accept the donation with undisclosed conditions that might influence academic research or curriculum development. This represents a significant ethical failure, as it compromises academic freedom and the objectivity of educational programs. It also violates principles of transparency and could lead to conflicts of interest that are detrimental to the college's educational mission and public trust. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment. First, identify all stakeholders and their interests. Second, consult relevant college policies, ethical codes, and any applicable Iraqi educational regulations. Third, evaluate the proposed donation against these frameworks, focusing on potential conflicts of interest, reputational risks, and long-term implications. Fourth, seek advice from legal counsel or ethics officers if the situation is complex. Finally, document the decision-making process and the rationale for the chosen course of action. Question 15. Strategic planning requires KenningtonCollege to address a significant budget deficit, Which of the following approaches best aligns with responsible institutional governance and long-term academic sustainability? Option A. Implementing drastic tuition fee increases without a clear plan for reinvestment in educational resources or student support services. Option B. Seeking emergency funding from sources with undisclosed agendas that may influence academic curriculum and institutional autonomy. Option C. Diversifying revenue streams through strategic partnerships and grant application that support academic programs and research initiatives. Option D. Reducing faculty salaries and benefits significantly to meet immediate financial targets, regardless of the impact on staff retention and expertise. The correct answer is C. Diversifying revenue streams through strategic partnerships and grant application that support academic programs and research initiatives. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate financial needs of the university with its long-term strategic goals and ethical obligations to its stakeholders, particularly students and faculty. The pressure to secure funding can lead to compromises that undermine the institution's academic integrity or future sustainability. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any strategic planning decisions align with the Al-Qaeda University College's mission and values, as well as relevant Iraqi educational regulations. The correct approach involves a comprehensive assessment of funding sources, prioritizing those that are sustainable and align with the college's academic mission. This includes exploring diverse revenue streams, such as grants, endowments, and partnerships that enhance educational offerings, rather than solely relying on short-term, potentially detrimental solutions. This approach is right because it adheres to principles of sound financial management and institutional responsibility, ensuring the long-term viability and academic quality of Al-Qaeda University College. It reflects a commitment to ethical stewardship of resources and a forward-looking perspective that benefits all stakeholders. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate cost-cutting measures without considering their impact on educational quality or student experience would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a decline in academic standards, faculty morale, and student satisfaction, ultimately harming the college's reputation and its ability to attract future students and funding. Such an approach would likely violate implicit or explicit commitments to providing a high-quality education. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes securing funding from sources with questionable ethical standing or those that impose undue influence on academic freedom would also be professionally unacceptable. This could compromise the college's independence and its ability to pursue its educational objectives without external interference. It would also raise ethical concerns regarding transparency and accountability to students, faculty, and the wider community. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the strategic objectives and constraints. Second, identify and evaluate all potential funding and resource allocation options, considering their short-term and long-term implications. Third, consult with relevant stakeholders, including faculty, administration, and potentially student representatives, to gather diverse perspectives. Fourth, assess each option against the college's mission, values, and applicable Iraqi educational regulations. Finally, select the option that best balances financial sustainability with academic excellence and ethical responsibility. Question 16. The evaluation methodology shows a prospective student has demonstrated exceptional passion for their chosen field during an interview, but their submitted academic transcripts from a previous institution show a slight deviation from the minimum grade point average stipulated by the Al-Qaeda University College entrance exam regulations for direct admission. The admissions committee is considering how to proceed. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action, strictly adhering to the Al-Qaeda University College entrance exam framework? Option A. Reject the application outright due to the failure to meet the minimum GPA requirement, without considering any other factors. Option B. Offer the student a conditional admission, requiring them to achieve a specific grade in their first semester at Al-Qaeda University College to fully secure their place, provided all other application requirements are met. Option C. Grant direct admission based on the student's evident passion and potential, assuming their academic performance will improve once enrolled. Option D. Advise the student to retake certain prerequisite courses at another institution to meet the GPA requirement before reapplying for the next admission cycle. The correct answer is B. Offer the student a conditional admission, requiring them to achieve a specific grade in their first semester at University College to fully secure their place, provided all other application requirements are met. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a critical juncture where the university's admissions committee must balance the aspirations of prospective students with the established academic standards and regulatory requirements for university entrance. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a nuanced understanding of fairness, equity, and adherence to the University College entrance exam-specific guidelines, which are designed to ensure a consistent and objective assessment process. The committee must avoid any perception of bias or preferential treatment, which could undermine the integrity of the examination and the college's reputation. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the student's application against the explicit criteria outlined in the University College entrance exam regulations. This includes verifying that all submitted documentation meets the required standards and that the student has fulfilled all prerequisites for the chosen program of study, as stipulated by the college's academic board and any relevant Ministry of Higher Education directives. This approach is ethically sound and regulatorily compliant because it prioritizes objective merit and adherence to established rules, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated on the same basis. It upholds the principle of fairness by applying the same standards to every applicant, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the admissions process and maintaining public trust in the institution. An incorrect approach would be to grant special consideration based on the student's expressed enthusiasm or the perceived potential for future success, without concrete evidence of meeting the current entrance requirements. This fails to adhere to the University College entrance exam's mandate for objective assessment and could be seen as a deviation from established academic standards. Such a decision would be ethically questionable as it introduces subjectivity and could lead to accusations of favoritism, potentially disadvantaging other equally deserving candidates who met all the stipulated criteria. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook minor discrepancies in documentation due to pressure from influential individuals or a desire to meet enrollment targets. This undermines the regulatory framework by compromising the accuracy and completeness of applicant records, which are crucial for maintaining institutional accountability and for future academic planning. It also sets a dangerous precedent that could erode the credibility of the admissions process. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the governing regulations and ethical principles. They must first identify the specific requirements of the University College entrance exam and the college's internal policies. Then, they should objectively assess the applicant's qualifications against these established criteria. If there are ambiguities or potential exceptions, these should be addressed through established channels for clarification or appeals, rather than through ad hoc decisions. Transparency and consistency are paramount. Any decision, especially one involving deviation from standard procedures, must be justifiable based on documented evidence and in alignment with the spirit and letter of the regulations. Question 17. Governance review demonstrates potential conflicts of interest within the admissions committee responsible for the University College entrance exam. Which of the following actions best upholds the principles of academic integrity and ethical governance? Option A. Make minor adjustments to the committee's meeting schedule to create a perception of change, while continuing with the existing decision-making procedures. Option B. Publicly dismiss the findings of the governance review as unfounded, citing the committee's long-standing commitment to fair admissions. Option C. Request that committee members voluntarily recuse themselves from decisions where a conflict might exist, without establishing formal guidelines or oversight. Option D. Immediately implement a mandatory disclosure policy for all admissions committee members regarding any potential conflicts, and initiate an independent review of the admissions process to identify and address any improprieties. The correct answer is D. Immediately implement a mandatory disclosure policy for all admissions committee members regarding any potential conflicts, and initiate an independent review of the admissions process to identify and address any improprieties. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate needs of the university with the long-term implications of its governance and ethical conduct. The university's entrance exam is a critical process that directly impacts its reputation, the quality of its student body, and its adherence to academic integrity principles. A governance review highlighting potential conflicts of interest necessitates a careful and principled response, rather than a reactive or self-serving one. The challenge lies in identifying and mitigating these conflicts without compromising the integrity of the admissions process or alienating key stakeholders. Correct approach involves a proactive and transparent engagement with the identified conflicts of interest. This means acknowledging the findings of the governance review, initiating an independent investigation to ascertain the extent and nature of the conflicts, and implementing robust mitigation strategies. Such strategies might include establishing clear disclosure policies, recusal protocols for individuals with conflicts, and strengthening oversight mechanisms. This approach is ethically and regulatorily sound because it prioritizes fairness, transparency, and accountability, which are fundamental principles in academic governance and institutional integrity. Adhering to the University College's internal regulations and any overarching Ministry of Higher Education guidelines on academic admissions and ethical conduct is paramount. This demonstrates a commitment to upholding the standards expected of an educational institution. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the governance review's findings without proper investigation. This failure to address potential conflicts of interest directly violates principles of good governance and ethical conduct. It suggests a disregard for transparency and accountability, potentially leading to biased admissions decisions and undermining public trust in the university. Another incorrect approach would be to implement superficial changes that do not genuinely address the root causes of the conflicts. This might involve minor policy adjustments that are easily circumvented, thereby failing to provide meaningful protection against undue influence or favoritism. Such actions would be ethically questionable and could lead to regulatory scrutiny and sanctions if they are found to contravene established guidelines for university admissions and ethical practices. Professionals in such situations should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the relevant regulations and ethical codes. This involves actively seeking information, consulting with relevant internal and external bodies, such as legal counsel or ethics committees, and prioritizing the long-term integrity and reputation of the institution over short-term expediency. A systematic approach to risk assessment and mitigation, coupled with open communication and a commitment to due process, is essential for navigating these complex challenges effectively and ethically. Question 18. Risk assessment procedures indicate a potential shortfall in projected enrollment for the upcoming academic year, which could impact the college's operating budget. The admissions department has identified a promising candidate who meets most, but not all, of the standard admission criteria. However, this candidate's family has expressed a strong willingness to provide significant financial support to the college if their child is admitted. The head of the admissions department is considering recommending a direct waiver of certain admission requirements for this candidate, bypassing the usual committee review process to secure both the enrollment and the potential donation. Which of the following represents the most professionally sound approach? Option A. Create a new, temporary policy specifically for this candidate to allow for their admission, without consulting the admissions committee or other relevant bodies. Option B. Initiate a formal review process for a potential waiver, ensuring all documentation is complete and the decision aligns with the college's established policies and ethical guidelines, even if it means the candidate might not be admitted. Option C. Inform the candidate that they do not meet the admission criteria and therefore cannot be considered, regardless of their potential financial contribution or the college's enrollment needs. Option D. Immediately approve the waiver for the candidate, prioritizing the immediate financial benefit and enrollment target over strict adherence to admission procedures. The correct answer is B. Initiate a formal review process for a potential waiver, ensuring all documentation is complete and the decision aligns with the college's established policies and ethical guidelines, even if it means the candidate might not be admitted. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and fair admission processes. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can tempt decision-makers to overlook established procedures, potentially compromising the credibility of the University College. Careful judgment is required to balance institutional goals with regulatory compliance and ethical standards. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the existing admission policies and a transparent communication of any proposed changes to the relevant stakeholders, including the admissions committee, faculty, and potentially student representatives. This approach upholds the principle of fairness and due process, ensuring that any adjustments to admission criteria are well justified, documented, and implemented in accordance with the Caltech College's regulatory framework. It prioritizes transparency and adherence to established procedures, which are fundamental to maintaining trust and academic rigor. An incorrect approach that involves bypassing the established admissions committee and directly approving a waiver for a candidate based on perceived financial benefit would represent a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This bypass undermines the authority and expertise of the admissions committee, creating an arbitrary and potentially discriminatory admission process. It violates the principle of equal opportunity and could lead to accusations of favoritism or corruption, damaging the university's reputation. Another incorrect approach, which is to immediately reject the candidate without a proper review of their qualifications against the established criteria, also fails to meet professional standards. While adherence to policy is crucial, a complete dismissal without due consideration of the candidate's circumstances or potential for a waiver, if such provisions exist within the regulations, could be seen as inflexible and lacking in due diligence. It misses an opportunity to apply existing policies fairly and consistently. A third incorrect approach, which is to create a new, ad hoc policy solely for this one candidate without broader consultation or formal approval, is also professionally unsound. This creates a precedent for inconsistent application of rules and lacks the transparency and accountability required by regulatory frameworks. It suggests a reactive rather than a proactive and principled approach to policy management. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding the specific regulatory framework and internal policies of Caltech College governing admissions. 2. Identifying the core ethical principles at play, such as fairness, transparency, and academic integrity. 3. Consulting with relevant committees or individuals responsible for admissions policy and implementation. 4. Documenting all considerations, decisions, and justifications thoroughly. 5. Communicating decisions and any policy adjustments clearly and transparently to all affected parties. Question 19. Compliance review shows a prospective student has been observed engaging in behavior that suggests they may have prior knowledge of specific questions on the upcoming Caltech College entrance exam. The student's guardian has approached an administrative staff member, expressing concern about the student's preparedness and subtly inquiring if there are any study materials that could be provided to ensure success. What is the most appropriate course of action for the administrative staff member, strictly adhering to Caltech College's entrance exam regulations and ethical guidelines? Option A. Acknowledge the guardian's concern and suggest that the student focus on reviewing common academic concepts without explicitly addressing the observation of potential prior knowledge or the guardian's request for study materials. Option B. Lightly inform the guardian that all candidates are expected to prepare using publicly available syllabi and that no specific exam content can be shared or discussed, and report the observation of potential prior knowledge to the examination committee. Option C. Advise the guardian that while direct exam content cannot be shared, there are supplementary unofficial study resources available through third-party tutors that might be beneficial. Option D. Provide the guardian with a general study guide that covers broad subject areas, while advising them to focus on the student's overall understanding rather than specific question types. The correct answer is B. Politely inform the guardian that all candidates are expected to prepare using publicly available syllabi and that no specific exam content can be shared or discussed, and report the observation of potential prior knowledge to the examination committee. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The university entrance exam is designed to evaluate a candidate's foundational knowledge and aptitude, and any deviation from the established examination procedures undermines this purpose and compromises the fairness of the admission process for all applicants. The core ethical and regulatory imperative is to uphold the integrity of the examination and the admission standards of University College. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the established examination regulations and policies of University College. This means ensuring that all candidates are assessed on their own merit, without any form of external assistance or pre-existing knowledge gained through prohibited means. The university's regulations, as stipulated for the entrance exam, are designed to create a level playing field and ensure that admitted students possess the required academic capabilities. Any action that circumvents these regulations, even if seemingly beneficial to an individual student, is a violation of academic integrity and university policy. An incorrect approach would be to facilitate or overlook any attempt by a student to gain an unfair advantage. This could manifest as providing advance information about the exam content, allowing unauthorized materials during the exam, or disregarding evidence of prior access to exam questions. Such actions directly contravene the principles of academic honesty and the specific rules governing the University College entrance exam. Ethically, this constitutes a breach of trust and a failure to uphold the university's standards. Legally and regulatorily, it could lead to severe consequences for the institution, including reputational damage and potential sanctions if the examination process is deemed compromised. The professional decision-making process in such situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the University College's examination regulations and ethical guidelines. When faced with a potential breach, a professional must prioritize the integrity of the process. This involves gathering all relevant facts, consulting the university's official policies on academic misconduct and examination procedures, and reporting any observed irregularities through the designated channels. The decision should be based on a commitment to fairness, transparency, and the upholding of academic standards, rather than on personal sympathy or perceived expediency. Question 20. Investigation of a student's request for tips on the University College entrance exam, implying a desire for advanced knowledge of specific topics or question types, requires a response that upholds the integrity of the admissions process. Which of the following responses best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for University College entrance examinations? Option A. Offer to provide a few likely topics that might be covered, emphasizing that these are general areas and not specific questions, to help the student focus their studies. Option B. Suggest that the student try to find past exam papers online, as these often contain similar question styles and topics, without directly confirming their validity or providing any specific guidance. Option C. Politely but firmly explain that providing any information about the exam content or questions is strictly against University College regulations and would compromise the fairness of the admissions process for all applicants. Offer to provide information on general study strategies or available preparation resources. Option D. Acknowledge the student's anxiety and suggest that they focus on general knowledge and hope for the best, without directly addressing the request for tips. The correct answer is C. Politely but firmly explain that providing any information about the exam content or questions is strictly against University College regulations and would compromise the fairness of the admissions process for all applicants. Offer to provide information on general study strategies or available preparation resources. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams, especially for a respected institution like University College, can lead some individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. The core of the challenge lies in upholding the principles of honesty and meritocracy while addressing the student's perceived need. The correct approach involves a direct, honest, and ethical response that prioritizes the integrity of the examination process. This means clearly stating that providing advance information about the exam questions or content is strictly prohibited and would constitute a serious breach of academic regulations. The justification for this approach is rooted in the University College's entrance exam regulations, which are designed to ensure a level playing field for all applicants and to assess genuine understanding and aptitude. Any deviation from these regulations undermines the credibility of the admissions process and devalues the achievements of honest candidates. Furthermore, Ethical principles of fairness and integrity demand that all applicants be evaluated on the same basis. An incorrect approach would be to consider or agree to provide any form of advance information, even if framed as a hint or guidance. This would directly violate the Al-Qut University College's entrance exam regulations regarding the confidentiality and security of examination materials. Such an action would be unethical as it compromises the fairness of the assessment and grants an unfair advantage to one student over others. It also sets a dangerous precedent, potentially leading to further requests and a systemic erosion of academic standards. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the student's request or to offer vague, non-committal responses without clearly addressing the ethical and regulatory boundaries. While not actively providing information, this passive approach fails to educate the student about the importance of academic integrity and the consequences of seeking such advantages. It misses an opportunity to reinforce the university's values and could be misinterpreted as tacit approval or a willingness to bend rules. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Recognizing the ethical and regulatory implications of the request. 2. Directly and clearly communicating the university's policies and the unacceptability of the request, citing relevant regulations if possible. 3. Reinforcing the importance of honest preparation and fair competition. 4. Offering support for legitimate academic preparation methods, such as study resources or guidance on effective learning strategies, without compromising exam integrity.